Um, Let me explain a little bit about what I'm doing. So I tried to go back to doing a color pencil and pastel mixture. Um, so let me get this in frame a little better. This is my test. So where the arrows are pointing, all the light side of the ball is in color pencil. Everything else is in pastel. So as you can tell, my color scheme, the tetrad is the red, the lime green, the yellow orange, and the blue violet. Even though it looks probably a little too violet, I probably could put a little bit of blue in there. And I find like this game plan is not a bad idea because I tend to want yeah, I even wrote it here, color pencil where clarity is needed and light areas. So I tend to find, light is where the more of the detail is, where you probably want the tighter stuff going on. Shadow tends to be darker, so there's less detail, and the background is bigger areas, so it tends to want to I think be sort of broadly stroked in with a big chunk of pastel. And I'm not going to do a lot of detail in the background of this. I'm going to try to show you all the source material that I was using. I mean, here's sort of where I got the idea. I just got this in the mail. It's a cool book. There's no words to it. Just a collection of just these old prints of specifically dragons and mythical creatures. So there's like the satyr guy. It's a cool book, but anyway, it's a visual reference book. I like the dragon versus the man. I like these little guys, these kind of like distorted little freaks of nature kind of things, kind of half animal. They seem not kind of half human a little bit, especially this one. And there's a whole tradition of like bizarre figure. I'm going to upload some images of that. I was thinking like Picasso did some drawings that remind me of like these bizarre like freaks of nature kind of like figure things. So here's my attempt at making one. Oh yeah, so I should show you. I literally made something. It's literally just cardboard, like, and hot glue gunned, and like, I just did it like super fast. I even like just scribbled this out with a pencil and cut it out. Here's a little mannequin head that's handy to have whenever I'm doing demos. But I lit that and I took some photos. I have some photos on my laptop over here that where everything was well lit, so I'm using that as my reference. I have it here as a reference, but I'm not really looking at it too closely because the light is all flat right now. So right now, like this is pastel. A lot on the light side is color pencil. I actually used some Verithin, which is like a hard Prismacolor. And there's a regular Prismacolor, and plus white. And oddly, since this is new to me, I do have some color pastel pencils. And after I put the color pencil down, I actually went over it with a little bit of this to kind of brighten it up, and it did work. And like it went on top, which was kind of not what I expected. So let's see if it'll work on here. You can kind of see it firsthand. So all that red orange is color pencil. Let me see if I can brighten it up. No, it doesn't really want to go. I think it's because here I've really burnished the surface and really pushed down really hard, so it's the wax is really heavily caked on, so it's not letting me put it on. But it probably will let me put it on the pastel side. You can see it's going on there. So you really have to experiment with it. I was surprised that this even went on because there was a lot of color pencil in that area. And right now I'm debating. It's like a grassy scene. It's from a photo that I took. I'm trying to debate, like, do I want the reflected light under the chin to be green, because there's lots of green here, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not sure. I'm still kind of playing this by ear. This is the new pastel. So the whole background mostly is green. It's like a nighttime park scene. Bum, bum, bum. Maybe I can use this to smudge. And the sky is kind of bluish black. I am putting in that blue first, which I want to get rid of it because if you recall, this color scheme doesn't have blue in it. So I'm probably going to add maybe some black on top of that to darken it. I want to get some of the reflected light on this thing here. And it's really just like, I'm sort of looking at the reference, I'm sort of looking at the photos. You know, this drawing is just kind of ridiculous, which is kind of what I enjoy about drawing in my my sketchbook. I do all kinds of just bizarre things that I never would do on a canvas. Like whatever just randomly interests me. I have the freedom to doodle it. Trying to figure out like how much of the green reflected light I want to come up on him, because the shadow side I want to, for the most part, to be kind of violet, but over here, since it's so near to the green, I'm gonna make it a little more green reflected. I'll probably put some violet in there too. This is something that I learned from years of figure drawing. If the model's standing on something colored, all the shadows will be affected by it close to the feet, less so as you move up. And I did spend a good amount of time with, I did this all with mechanical pencil. I spent a good amount of time figuring out the basic shapes. And I kind of was about 90% positive of where I wanted everything to be with pencil before I even moved over to the pastel. So I got this one from the required pastels for the class. This is the what do you call it? What's the name of this brand? Is it Hashi? What's that funny little logo? Again, I'm doing this with plans of putting black on top of this later, because I'm thinking in terms of layers. I'm not thinking in terms of just one layer that I touch and then be like, okay, I'm done. I might come back on top of that 10 times before that area is done, depending on how much detail I want to put into this. And there is like an orange light in the background too. Hopefully I'll remember to put the reference images up as well so you know what I'm looking at. But at a certain point along, these are all trees, and then there's like a horizon where it looks like maybe like a parking lot or something in the far distance that's being lit by streetlights. So it's kind of glowing orangey, yellowy orange, which is good because it helps stick to the color scheme that I'm using. I need to have that yellow orange in here. Maybe a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of this ochre. Because I don't want it to mix in with the blue, I'm going to erase. Where's my other eraser? You can't see my face, but I'm constantly squinting too. I'm squinting while I'm looking at both my drawing and the what do you call it, the source material that's on my laptop over here. I mean, every once in a while I do open my eyes completely. So I can mix in some of this. And if I really am trying to be accurate, the pathway, though it looks like it's white and gray, it really has a lot of green in it too. So I probably should smear some of that green on top of even this pathway some. I mean, it is a lot grayer than this, but this is just my first initial lay-in, just to get some color going in the background. And then the photo is really hazy, probably because it's slightly out of focus, which works well with the pastel. You know, I want the background to be hazy and out of focus, and him, or it, whatever, to be more tight and in focus. So the mediums are working in my favor. Tight colored pencil with a little bit of pastel in the shadow, and hazy or pastel in the background. I'm not going to use any color pencil in the background. Though I do have the luxury of having a set of. I just got these two. Let me show you. Pastel pencils. For those of you who want to get really, you know, tight with your drawing. It's really nice. And I got it on Amazon for like a lot, really way cheaper than normal, because it was like a damaged box, which doesn't even look damaged. It had some like dents in it. But that's going to be helpful for the tight areas. Though I am going to try to show you more of the color pencil, which I'm using too. I want to make sure it's in the frame here. So this is sort of what the next assignment's going to be after we do one more color scheme drawing, is when I talked about the color spheres. Well, I'm going to make you do a bunch of spheres where you play with lighting and the color of the local color of the object and the reflected light of the object. I'm going to make you do several. I don't know how many. And then you use that as a basis for a drawing. So you can see I'm doing that. I'm trying to think ahead for that next assignment a little. This is a nice color. It's a really nice, expensive one. The only problem is it's too warm, so I need to make sure the shadows cool down a little bit. So I'm noticing as I put that in there, it's a nice lowering of the saturation of the green, but the problem is it's warming the greens, and I kind of there's some of that happening in here, but for the most part, it seems to cool down as it darkens. So maybe something like this that's a little cooler. Hope you can see that. This is, you know, this leans more towards the yellow. This one leans more towards the blue, so I'm going to go with this one. Looks like a cast shadow sweeping across the background from like another tree somewhere in the background that you don't see. Even this, as I'm getting it in there, it probably still needs to get darker, so I might need to have a darker pastel, which I don't know which one I'm going to use for that right now. So you can see that's the cast shadow from the tree that's going across here. It's a good start, but not as dark as I need it to be. Try to smudge it a little. And it will lift away, and you're gonna have to come back and do it again. That's the nature of pastel. You lay stuff down, you smudge it in, then you gotta lay it down again. Try to get some more down in here. If this could work. It's that black that isn't really black. If you want to see, let me show you. Let me help to see. Oh, that's black. See, this is almost kind of bluish, blue-black. Maybe it's like a Payne's gray. It's one of my favorite oil paints, Payne's gray. It's kind of like a blue-black. My finger does push the pastel into the paper more than this. This tends to lift it up more. So maybe when I want it to stay down better, I should probably use my finger. To make sure I'm squinting. Squinting looks okay. I do have to make sure he has a cast shadow going in this direction. There's a little trash can. That's a good visual cue for me because it shows where the cast shadows, which direction they go in, if in this lighting scene. Which I tried to light the figure too the same way when I was taking photos of it. So he has a cast shadow moving in that direction. And I'm debating now, this is just a rough block in, I'm debating how I want to handle the body. I think I want it to be in color pencil, so maybe I should take a break from the background and do a little bit of the color pencil on the figure. Which is really confusing for me because I don't know, do I want to use the background color, which sometimes I'll do that. I'll use, for instance, like maybe like a dark green and start drawing the edges of the figure. Or do I want to use whatever colors are supposed to be on the figure going this way on the figure? Which I guess I'm going to go for, again, like a more violet red. But even though this figure's kind of more whitish, because it's basically made out of white paper. And then the cloven hoof area, I don't know what color that's going to be. Kind of making this up as I go. Let me just test out, see how light I should get. I'm not even sure if I want to be using pastel. Maybe I should be using color pencil. This is pastel. It's so confusing, I don't know what to do. This is one of the problems when you're sort of making the colors out of your head. And the hand kind of tilts like this, so maybe I want to get some green. Reflect the light into that shadow. And same thing with this one. I don't know, do I make that one violet or do I make that one green? I think I'm going to make that one violet. Just the shadows that are down here will have the reflected green in it. And I'll probably soften these edges later. I'm kind of just drawing it really harsh and outliney just so I can find the drawing again. But I don't really want it to be that harsh of an outline in the end. And I don't know if I necessarily want the body to be as intense red as that. Maybe I can soften it up, have it be a little more pale. Again, this is I should use color pencil because I keep trying to tell you I want to use color pencil. So here's a Verithin, which is kind of like a warm red. So as we transition away from the shadow side of this weird shape, which is basically like a spiral. His body basically is like this weird spiral of paper. So it seems to, it goes over the pastel okay, I think it's the reverse that doesn't really want to happen, where you do a harsh layer of color pencil and it's all waxy, and then the pastel doesn't want to go on. But the reverse, color pencil does seem to be okay, but going on top of pastel. This is very unorthodox what I'm doing. Most people just say do not mix these two. But I'm going off into the unknown here. I should really expose more of that so I don't just be I'm not stuck with having to just hatch with line only. I can kind of get a wider area down. The light is hitting really hard on the chest area, if that is a chest, and then it fades away more as you move away from the arms. What time is it? Okay, that's a long demo. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna work on it some more. Maybe tighten up the drawing. Maybe get to a point where I need to spray fix it so I can tighten up the drawing some more. Yeah, I think this is a good stopping spot.